Ignore that noise you hear at night. No, not the loud noises like the police siren racing down the road near your house at 2 a.m., or those crashing and breaking sounds that would announce the presence of some unwanted person in your house. Those you should probably listen to. They're loud enough, even if you normally tune the sirens out like I do, but they're loud for a good reason. They want you to hear them, or you want to hear them. Plus, those sounds are coming from other humans. No, I'm talking about that skittering sound from the hallway that you just barely pick up on while you're rolling over in bed, barely audible over the shifting of the sheets and the creaking of the bed frame. That tiny squeaking that you can barely hear over the noise of the video you played to fall asleep to, that's still running hours later, which you guess is just the ceiling fan or a mouse in the wall that you thought you'd killed months ago. Ignore those noises. Now, this is much easier when you have roommates. All those extra nighttime noises can be blamed on the 2 or 3 other people living in the house. The half asleep assumption is easy to make, and after a time, you won't really hear the noises anymore. They just start to fade into the background. That's good. It's better that way. When the roommates move out, though, it gets a bit harder, especially at first. Just the knowledge that you're alone may be enough to keep your senses more tuned in than normal. Plus, you don't have an easy excuse anymore. There isn't someone else to blame for the slight creaking of the loose floorboard outside of your room, which always seems to come right as you've drifted just past the point of no return, when the content of your dreams has begun to seep into the world and blur the line of sleep and waking. The sort of noise that is just loud enough to snap you back awake, as if you'd been nodding off in class and the teacher had just called your name. Now you're lying there, trying to figure out what woke you, when there isn't any other sound to indicate something is wrong. Ignore those noises. Even when all of your senses are screaming that something is wrong, as if you'd just woken from a nightmare and your brain still hasn't caught back up with reality, ignore those noises. No, you aren't still dreaming. No, you aren't just imagining them either. Like I said, this is harder when you're on your own, but you still have to ignore them. If you can make it seem natural, just roll back over. Don't thrash around or sit bolt upright in bed or anything like that. That wouldn't show that you were ignoring it now, would it? After rolling over, if you're lucky, you might even drift off back to sleep. That would be best. In fact, you want to be asleep if possible. Sleep is safe. If you're a light sleeper like me, you might have to do that a few times each night. Wake up thinking that you hear something and try desperately to fall back asleep. That's okay too, because after a while it becomes normal. In fact, if you ever have other people in the house with you, it is probably already natural. If that sounds too hard for you, you could also just turn up the volume of whatever background noise you prefer. Just hope, though, that whatever you're playing stays on all throughout the night, because the louder it is when you fall asleep, the worse it will be when that slight noise brings you back awake. My advice is to just get used to it. As long as you can at first, it should get easier and easier. As long as you're ignoring it the whole time, that is. See, as I said before, you can listen to the loud noises because either they want you to hear them or you want to hear them. But these noises, the one that you should ignore, are the opposite. They don't want you to hear them, and you definitely don't want to hear them. Because if they know you heard, things get worse. The first time you bolt up in bed, panting and wildly swinging your head around for the source of the noise, they'll know. The next night, that noise you hear, just barely on the edge of your hearing, will be closer. I know because it is an easy mistake to make, especially the first time. I did. I wish more than anything that I hadn't. You can keep trying to ignore it at that point, sure, but it will be so much harder because each night the noise gets closer. Instead of the loose floorboard outside of your bedroom, the noise may change. Was that your door hinges squeaking last night? You could have sworn that you locked your bedroom door before you went to bed, so it can't be. Whatever you hear, though, you have to keep ignoring it. Do not roll over to check the door. The next night, the sound will be closer still. Was that the door again? Or was that the sound of a floorboard inside your room? Maybe it was both. Just keep ignoring the noise. Try to go back to sleep if you can. Keep your videos or your music playing like you've done for so many more nights. Enjoy the sleep you get if you're able to. Because as the noise gets closer each night, sleep is going to become harder and harder. Until you're sure the noise was no longer a floorboard but the creaking of your bed frame. Do not roll over. Keep ignoring the noise. Whatever you do, keep ignoring. Don't do what I did. Because the first time I heard the noise from my bed frame, I couldn't help myself. I sat up and stared around the room. Mercifully, the room was empty. That night. The next night, I woke up not to a noise, but a sensation. The sensation of someone sliding into bed next to me. I lay there trying not to move a muscle, hoping beyond hope that it was just my imagination. That was a sleepless night. The day after, I felt something pull its body close to me, close enough that I woke in a monstrous parody of a lover's embrace. I know that one of these nights, I'm going to be too tired, which makes sense as I can barely sleep. But one night I'll be too tired to keep ignoring it. I'll be jerked out of my restless sleep screaming, or worse, I'll thrash and turn around to see whatever it is that now pulls me close each night. And this time, I don't think that the room will be empty. It knows that I know. So please, whatever you do, ignore that noise you hear at night, because it can get so much worse.